Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the In Too Deep podcast. My guest today is Caoimhe Gibney. I'm glad I didn't butcher that one.
No.
That Irish spelling is exceptionally tricky. Caoimhe has a lot going on. So she is a physiotherapist, breathwork facilitator, yoga and Pilates instructor, and also hosts her own podcast. Is there anything that you don't do?
Plenty. Yeah, but sometimes when you put it all together, I'm like, there's a lot of hats.
Yeah, there's a lot of hats. So we've got a lot to delve into today. So first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, such an honor. And you have a fantastic podcast. So to be asked is just a real privilege.
Oh, thank you so much. So let's get straight into it, shall we? So my first question I ask all my guests is I want you to describe yourself. So who is Caoimhe Gibney in your own words?
It's like the hardest question.
I know, that's why I like to start and just throw people off, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So who is Caoimhe? I am a 28-year-old Irish girl living in Sydney for nearly 3 years now. So coming up on 3 years. And I don't know, if you'd ask me who I am, I always try and strip back some of the identity pieces. So for a really long time, I was very attached to like the physio thing or just different parts of me that I would have described. And I think more and more I'm finding I'm just curious and creative, and I love working with people and helping people in whatever way, shape or form I can. And yeah, I think I'm really proud of where I come from and everything that I've worked through, and then try and just hold people in that as well. So hard question to answer, but I feel like all the hats and then underneath it all, it's always the same purpose and the same value behind it.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And you mentioned sort of stuff you've worked through. So that's definitely what we want to dig into today. And so with so many hats, like tell me, what is the Caoimhe elevator pitch? Like when someone says like, what do? Do you list off all of that stuff? Or like what exactly, what do you most identify with, I guess?
I feel like I'm in a real phase of embodiment. So I train people in breathwork, and then I've created a level 2 of my own method of bringing all of those hats together. So something that was really hard for a while was, what am I actually doing? I wasn't sure. If you came to a one-to-one session with me, it wouldn't just be one thing. It wouldn't be breathwork, or it wouldn't be physio, it wouldn't be Reiki, it wouldn't be just one thing. It was kind of a amalgamation of it all. So over the last while, I would say the embodiment piece meant maybe detaching from like the structures and what I've been taught so rigidly, and starting to feel into what it is that I'm trying to give in some way or just bring people through. So I would say somatics, embodiment, and expression in a lot of ways. It took me a really long time to get to that point, but yeah, it's under the name Onam, which means soul in Ireland, or in Irish in Gaeilge. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of Onam Collective is what I've tried to capture it all under.
Okay. Well, tell us more about what that collective is all about.
So I was teaching breathwork trainings. I was bringing people through level 1 breathwork trainings where they were trauma informed. We would do a lot of body work. We would do a lot of the science, and I worked in respiratory physio myself. So I worked between like sports physio, and then I loved physiology and the respiratory side of the house. So just transitioning into breathwork made a lot of sense. I started with functional breathing and Pilates, and then I moved into more of the trauma-informed somatic space. And I really saw a gap to bring it all together. So the Onam Collective piece is, we've trained like nearly 150 facilitators in the last 2 years to do this. So to bring people through processes that are, I believe, really transformative. And it's just about meeting people where they're at. So rather than pushing people or needing to get an outcome, we're meeting people as they come in and just bringing them through exactly what they need. So it's very embodied in a sense. Like if you're embodied as a facilitator, you will bring an embodied practice to the people who meet you.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it sounds like you don't identify with like one dogma. Like obviously, like you do so many things and you just use whatever works for the client you see in front of you.
Exactly.
You'll pull whatever tools from whatever methods you've sort of learned from.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly.
Okay, tell me more about the clients that you tend to deal with.
So myself, I'm kind of with the facilitators at this point. So I work with a lot of facilitators, either one-on-one or through the level 2, them starting to expand. So a lot of them are like leaving corporate jobs, starting to go into this full time and really lean all the way in. So Irish people love to stick together. So I have a massive Irish community, I would say. And then just being in Australia a while, I can start to see it trickle into others. So the last few trainings have had Australians on the trainings. We've brought in men on the trainings, where in the beginning it was very women focused. I'm trained in Tantra and stuff. So it started out as a space where I really held women, and it started to definitely expand. So some of the most, I would say, rewarding clients, I really love the trauma side of things. Personally, that's something that I really enjoy working in. It's where I kind of started as a physio, and then it's carried through. And then I love working with people who are just looking to find their people as well, because I definitely remember what that felt like, of feeling lost or alone, or not having the place that I could go to that I felt seen and heard. So part of the mission has been to create that for other people and then allow them to ripple it into the world. Okay. So less about me. It's like decentering myself and starting to bring people with me.
Yeah, what you can do for others.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So talk to me more about what you've learned about trauma. So it's funny you say that. I'm studying a Master's of Psychotherapy and Counselling. Trauma is one of the subjects we're doing. Trauma-informed therapy is one of the subjects we're doing this trimester, and I'm already loving it. I'm like one tutorial in, and like it's very interesting. So tell me, what do you know about trauma, and what have you learned about it so far?
Yeah, so it's massive, and lots of different frames of thoughts.
And it's a very hot topic as well, right? Like it's very pop psychology right now.
Yeah, it's definitely coming up in the space, and I would actually post a lot, I suppose, on TikTok. I find more free form and easier to communicate. And it's something that I can definitely feel, it's trending in a sense. And part of me wants to protect, people who are vulnerable. And something that comes up really strongly for me is the people who are seeking out information on trauma. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, trauma, often are the most vulnerable and need to be held softly in where we're going. So my experience of trauma is I've done a 300-hour in Somatics. I've done lots and lots of trauma courses to get there as well. And a lot of them will say the same thing, but the biggest thing I can see is that safety is the foundation of everything. So however our safety was disrupted throughout our life, whether it be in our primitive years through childhood, or as we got older, that some of the safety rugs were pulled from under us. How do we recreate that safety in order to allow flexibility to re-enter the nervous system? So when we become rigid or fear-based, we're often just living in a nervous system that is trying its very best to find safety foundations. So the trauma-informed side of this is, how do we create the space? And I think it's really important that facilitators know, like, you're not holding a safe space. You're putting in the foundations to hopefully create a space that feels safe for someone. And all we can do is our best in that. We can work on our own stuff as trauma-informed facilitators so that we're not projecting or getting reactive in situations. But yeah, the trauma space is sensitive. I think being open to what may come in and you not knowing, I think that's probably the biggest thing I've taken from all trauma studies is I don't know. Like, I don't know what you've gone through. Yeah. I can't possibly understand that. Like, I can't say me too. I can't tell you you're going to be okay because all I can do is meet you where you're at right now and hold you in so much wholeness. Biggest thing in it is, you're not there to be fixed. Like, nobody's broken. It's just about finding the space to be able to feel whole again. Yeah. But yeah, it's a huge space. I'm really passionate about it.
Yeah, I'm sure we could talk all day on trauma.
I could.
But yeah, I guess like what you say is right. Like, you can have empathy for someone, but you don't know what their experience is. No matter, even if you shared a similar experience, you can't put yourself in someone's shoes, and you can only empathize with them. And like you said, try to create a safe space for them.
Absolutely. And you'll know that from the psychotherapy space. Like, we're doing our best and everybody is trying to relate and resonate. But yeah, only you know what you've gone through. Yeah. And only you can speak to that experience. But I do think it's beautiful. One of the things I've noticed in the facilitator trainings is facilitators coming through who say to me after like our first call, which is all about going through their trauma course and then starting to integrate it, is, I don't know whether I can do this work because I'm so traumatized. Like, I've had all of these things in my life. They might score really high on what we call an ACE score. And something I will always say to those people is, it's often the thing that makes you the most incredible facilitator is you have been through so much that you can genuinely hold a space that has that depth. Yeah. So it's beautiful to see them transition and turn pain into purpose, but I know it takes a lot to get to that point.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of jokes about, in the therapist realm of like, people who are doing it have been through hell and back. Yeah. and are trying to sort of heal and help other people. Yeah. So tell me, what's your favorite thing about what you do?
It's definitely the people. I think myself, I started out in palliative care. So I was working in a hospice as a physio. It was my first job out of college, and I really just wanted to help people. I think there was probably an underlying wound of maybe not feeling like a good person, and maybe in some ways proving that if I did the job that I perceived as the hardest thing possible, so to like walk people through death and dying and grief, and probably the thing I feared the most, that it would make me a better person in some ways. And yeah, it opened me completely, like it cracked me open. It also broke me in many ways, even though nobody's broken, but like the light that I had or the joy that I felt I could bring to my life just disappeared from me. I was so caught up in pain and in death and dying and grief. And I felt like I took on so much that I just completely lost myself. So I suffered from really bad burnout around that time. And the irony of I did my thesis on burnout and the signs of burnout and how not to get burnt out. And then 6 months into real adult working life, I got severely burnt out. But the part of my job that definitely gives me the most reward is now feeling like that was for something. Like that experience of now I can hold really deep spaces and sometimes really intense trauma for people and not take it on.
Yeah.
Because I had to learn that the hard way, but being able to maybe open that up for other people is something that I feel like is very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So you've taken, what would be a perceived negative, burning out, into being like, oh, I experienced this, extreme pain, and you can help other people with it. So tell me more about how you bounce back from the burnout.
Yeah. They say bad burnout takes about 7 years for your nervous system to recover. So I can probably attest that it did take a long time. In the beginning, so the way I burnt out personally was my body just pretty much gave up. I was on the ward, so I was covering kind of 2 wards. It was around Christmas time, and Christmas time in palliative care is notoriously awful because people will really push to live out Christmas. A lot of oncologists say to people, you won't live till Christmas when they're given their cancer diagnosis. So there's a real willpower to live past Christmas.
Yeah.
So I remember Christmas Eve, I was in Christmas Eve and I was coming back in on the 26th. And on the 26th, nearly the whole ward had passed away. So it was like people did make Christmas Day, they came back in, and then they unfortunately died. So there was a big influx then where you would have a turnover. It sounds awful, but the beds need to be filled again. So people were then filling the beds, which means there's lots of admissions. I would have to do lots of assessments. And I was on my own. I was a new grad. I had zero resilience, I would say. And at this point, like I hadn't taken a day off. I just was like, I need to prove myself in here. Like I'm a good physio. I'm able to do this. I'm not taking it on. I'm strong and courageous, all of those things. And then the week after Christmas, I came back in and I remember sitting at a meeting and the consultant asking me a question, and I just, like, my whole body started to shake. I had like a singular bead of sweat, and she told me to leave the room. She's like, you're not well. And I went down to the physio department and said, guys, like, I really, really don't feel good. And I was just getting like excruciating pain in my side. And one of the physios was like, go to the GP, see what's happening. And I had appendicitis. So I don't even know, to be honest with you, if like they took my appendix out, but you're so out of it, you're off your mind on meds when you come out, that I know he took my appendix out, but they did an exploratory surgery. And he just said, I don't know what's wrong with your system, but your CRP was really high. Your inflammatory markers are really high in your body. You're suffering from like extreme inflammation. So I had 3 weeks off work. And in those 3 weeks, I swear to God, it was the first time my body came down. And I remember like bawling, crying in my bed saying, I actually can't live like this. Like I can't do this. I don't have any connections. Like I haven't made an effort with my friends in like 4 months. All I've been doing is fucking hit workouts because my body was getting so inflamed. I couldn't understand why I was putting on weight, but exercising and then pushing myself harder. And then in work, I just couldn't perform. I couldn't think. I had brain fog. And honestly, I just totally lost myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, like coming back from that, it was so slow. I remember starting with meditation, and I, like as a physio, I think you can be quite logical. You're obviously doing a lot of one-to-ones with patients and like giving strategies and trying to help them cope, but a lot of the stuff you don't take on yourself. So I may have
do
said,
as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Right?
I
You
may
do your
have
thesis on
said-
burnout and then you burn yourself out.
Absolutely. Like I could have said to patients, meditation is really helpful, but not done that myself. So it started small. I remember doing Deepak Chopra's 21 days of meditation. Like that's the first thing I did. And then I think like getting a coach, going to therapy, like doing really simple things that I would have never done having it not happened. I went back into work and I remember asking for help for the first time in my whole life. So I went into a senior and I was like, I'm actually not coping on this ward. Like I need support. And a psychologist said to me, probably the most helpful thing I have ever been told. And it's like stuck with me since every time I get overwhelmed, but it's not yours today. So something that really helped in the space was I'm going in and I think I'm taking stuff on. Like I'm taking on grief, I'm taking on pain, I'm taking on suffering, I'm taking on worry, whatever it is. And she said to me, Kiva, like it's not yours today. Like your grief will come, your pain will come, your suffering will come, your heartbreak will come, but that's not yours today. So you're doing everybody a disservice by taking it on. And I don't know, it was like a switch flipped. And by the time I moved into pediatrics, so I just moved jobs, I approached it so differently. I was like, I'm going to give what I have when I'm there. And at the end of the day, my life has to be more important than this thing that I do for money, which I still kind of hold firm now, I would say. But yeah, that's a long-winded way.
Yeah, well, sometimes you need to be like, rock bottom before you sort of see the light and start changing what's going on for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned it was the first time you ever asked for help.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's been such a block for you to ask for help?
Oh, I think like probably oldest child syndrome. I'm the eldest of 4 girls, and I think I just grew up learning that I had to be so independent. My mom is like superwoman. She's amazing. And I probably lived in a different dynamic where my dad was home with us a lot. He would have brought me to school and made the lunches and kind of did the things that you would expect mum to do in traditional family systems. But my mum was out working and had like the high paid job and all of those things. So I think I honestly just watched her and thought, oh, this is what it is to be like a strong, powerful woman. And as I've gone into embodied spaces, I probably can see that somewhere along the way, an empowered woman became a man. And like she regrets some of where she lost time with us and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I learned to be really independent and what it looked like to be successful. And it just skewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good you have that self-awareness. One of my questions that I love to ask was, what's the hardest thing you've been through? But is that burnout one of the most challenging things you've been through? Have you been through other stuff in your life? It's
definitely up there. I would say that year was hard. I lost a friend. So we went traveling in Canada just before I started working. And one of the guys that I lived with in college, we were traveling, and unfortunately he passed away before we came home. So I would say I was probably grief-stricken myself going into that job. Okay. And it didn't help with the amount of loss. And then my mom had her own stuff. As soon as I went away, my dad had health scares. And it was just like, when you work in healthcare, and maybe people listening to this, or if you work in a space where you're seeing things constantly, it's not like you're a hypochondriac for yourself. You have health anxiety for everybody else. So I would be like seeing, gastric cancer come in over and over again. And I'd be like, that's it. That's exactly what dad has. Like there'd be little symptoms where I'd be picking it up. So yeah, I think like losing Kieran and then moving through spaces that were just filled with grief was really hard when you're not processing your own stuff. So I think the hardest part was probably when I came up out of like the intensity of, I'm going to work my way out of this. I'm going to have no free time. I'm not going to sit with it. When I had to sit with it, it was awful. Like I remember those first few months of therapy being really, really awful. Because it was stuff I'd never even looked at before.
Yeah.
But I always say to people when we do somatics and when we're in stuff, like it gets lighter. Every time you go in, it lifts a little bit more. And I can safely say that it's not as heavy anymore. Yeah. There are days, but...
Yeah, that's great. So what would your advice be to anyone who's going through a really tough time?
I think it's to ask for help. Maybe all the things I didn't do. Ask for help with it. And I know how hard, and there's definitely, in Ireland anyway, some stigma around therapy, or it can be hard to access. But there are so many spaces. Like actually one of the first places that I felt open to speak in was a women's circle. And it was my first time just expressing myself, not knowing anybody else in the space and not caring. There would have been a really big pressure at home to like be perceived as perfect, or, you know, we don't let the side down, or our family can't be perceived a certain way. And now here I am like exposing myself all of the time, either online, on podcasts. And I think for people going through it, finding people who can be vulnerable in a way that's authentic, I think is helpful. Like in those early stages, I just needed to know I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
So either asking for help or like listening to podcasts that make you feel like, okay, somebody else has gone through this and they've come out the other side. That really, really helped me. In the beginning. And then I think opening the conversation. So now I would be the person, I hope, in groups to just say, like, it's absolutely okay that you're going through that. Like, you don't need to sweep it under the carpet, and we hold the space for the conversation.
That's good. And I think the future looks quite bright, I think, for mental health and this sort of space, right? I feel like the younger generation, people are less averse to go to therapy.
Definitely.
There's so many options. Like you said, there's women's groups, there's men's group. You can do online groups now. Like, do you think the space is in a good position going forward?
My God, yeah. Like, my youngest sister is 8 years younger than me, and she is so much more mature than I was. But she's reading books that like didn't find me until much later on. They accessed therapy way before I would have ever even thought about it.
I think the drinking less as well, they're showing all that sort of stuff.
Health, everything. Yeah. Like, their heads are screwed on. And I know people, you know, give them a bit of whatever, like snowflakes and stuff. I don't see that. Okay. I think they're actually really self-aware. And yeah, probably, I don't know, maybe more resilient. Like, they've gone through COVID in a different way and stuff. So building resilience, I think, is probably the biggest thing that we can give people. But yeah.
Yeah, so the world's in good hands, basically.
I hope so. Well, if we want to bring in, I always feel like there's a responsibility. Like, I'm at the age where I'm starting to think about kids, and I do want to bring kids into a world that I feel like it's responsible to do that. Like, the world does feel like it's on fire in other ways. Yeah. And part of me just wants to make sure that the resources are there, or that, you know, they have the opportunity to have a really good quality of life.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. Tell me, what's your biggest source of inspiration in life?
I would say my family have given me so much, and there's so many people that I am deeply inspired by, but I don't think I would be in any way the person I am without that space at home. It by no means was perfect. And look, I think I'm very much so in a space where I can understand they know what they knew, or like they did what they could with what they had. And I totally understand that. But when I look at my parents and the way that they approached it, I think their values were so spot on. I think if you ask them, they're married 30 years, but if you ask them 30 years ago what their values were and what their values are now, it's the same. And what
are those values?
Family and community. I can see the way we were brought up, and it's very much so an Irish thing as well, of like, community is currency. It's everything at home. Like, I watched them play really big roles. My mom sometimes in quieter ways, my dad more outwardly, but I could see the value of when things went wrong, community came in. When there was support needed, community came in, and it's just allowed me to create my own community, knowing that like, I can do that. Why wouldn't I be able to bring people around me who are like-minded and have similar values? And then from the family piece, I just think I have taken a lot of like what I wouldn't do, but I can also see the value in how they did it. Like, I think self-sacrificing is something that I'm a lot more selfish than my parents are. They never traveled. They never got the opportunity. It was all about sacrificing for us, while I hope they can see how much we appreciate it. And yeah, I think they have 4 good kids that would do anything for them. And I always think that's a reflection of the way maybe they brought you up, or what they gave you, that relationship stands the test of time. Yeah. So yeah, they're my biggest inspirations. They've been through their own stuff, and I'm just really proud of them. Yeah. I also think as I entered the healing space, there was a lot of pushback in the beginning. Like, they were quite happy for me to be a physio, maybe a little bit resistant for me to
just
move.
Sounds on paper better for that generation.
Yeah.
Physiotherapist.
Yeah, I think this move was, I wouldn't say triggering, but it brought up stuff for them too. And yeah, just watching them, I suppose, take it on or be a little bit more open has been a lovely transition as well. So yeah.
That's beautiful words you have for your family there. Hopefully they're listening to this. Maybe not.
I'll send it to them if we say nothing else.
Okay. What's your proudest moment in life?
Oh gosh. My proudest moment. I feel like this sounds so cliche and so cringe, but the thing I try and do is run after the fear or like chase my fear a little bit. And I was meant to move to New Zealand. So all of my friends were in New Zealand. It very much so was the plan. And I just had this really big pull to give Bali a go before that. So the plan was still always to go to New Zealand afterwards. But I remember telling my parents, like sitting down with my friends and like telling people that I was leaving. I had just gotten my dream job at home. I was in a long-term relationship and I was really happy. We were like setting a life up and I just had this overwhelming feeling. And at the time I was like, am I sabotaging? Like, am I actually self-sabotaging my whole life? But there was something deeper in me that was like, no, you're not.
Like your intuition was
you need to go and you need to go now. Like COVID hadn't even really lifted. So I had to get a special visa for Bali. It was expensive, like everything that could have been a barrier. I just looked at and I was like, no, get on the plane. And I remember leaving my ex in Dubai. So we just had like a goodbye holiday, which is wild. But leaving him in Dubai and kind of being like, if it's right, it'll come back. If it's not, there's something else. And then I think the proudest moment I have is sitting and making the decision to come to Australia, even though it wasn't maybe the easiest thing to do. And then making it work and coming home and be able to tell my parents like, no, this is for me. I don't know how much I had done in my life up until that point that was actually my own decisions, not, influenced by everybody around me. And there was just a moment where I had no money left. There was no options. I had about 200 quid. I remember coming here and looking for houses and I was like, how am I going to get given a lease with $200 in my account? But it always works out. And something in me is like, you know what, the proudest moment is really trusting myself in that moment. And there's loads of things that came after that, but just that I wanted to turn and go home. And when I got here first, there was like big challenges, like relationship fell apart. I ended up not having money, but having to try and pay for a house. And I just had this thing of like, you need to stay, you need to stick this out. It's hard now, but it's not going to be hard in the future. And yeah, I'm just like, God, she didn't know. Like she didn't have a clue that everything would fall into place. And it was actually one of the days that I was out walking back and after a breakup, walking back, trying to figure out how I was going to pay for everything. It would have been easier to just go home. And the idea to run breathwork trainings came in. And it was like, of course you can do this. Like, this is what you've been basically training for the last 7-8 years. Just do it. Now's the time. You have nothing to lose. So yeah, it's often in those lowest moments, but yeah, probably the proudest.
No, I love that. It sounds like you have a very strong intuition. One of my things that I think I personally need to work on is listening to my intuition more, because I've had it screaming at me to like leave certain relationships or certain jobs. And I kind of like, as a man, I think I'm really good at like suppressing emotions. So I would just tuck really difficult feelings away. And as I'm getting older, I'm getting better and better, like actually being in tune with what's going on for me inside,
Yeah. Do you know where you feel it in your body?
I'm a big stomach guy.
Okay.
Everything's in my stomach.
Yeah. So, interesting.
Yeah. The more I'm learning about the somatic stuff and learning how to feel, where are you feeling this in your body? Like a lot of people get it in the chest, in the neck and throat and face, but I'm everything, my stomach goes tight. I can just feel it. Just
something's off.
Yeah. 100%.
And then you'll be able to play with it because it's just a muscle. So it'll tell you more information the more that you explore it, which is really fun. But yeah, I love that. Intuition's so powerful.
Yeah, and I've had one of the girls that I am studying with, we've done a little bit of somatic stuff and just like being able to zone in on that feeling and being like, cool, like put all your attention onto that feeling and seeing what it's telling you and where it's sort of guiding you has been really game changing so far. So I've really loved I haven't done a lot of somatic work, but I'm looking forward to delving a little bit deeper into it.
It's so cool. Yeah. Somatics is definitely life changing. Like, it unravels part of us that we cognitively can't understand, which just opens up a whole new layer, I feel, for people.
Yeah, 100%. Tell me, do you have any daily rituals that you utilize in order to stay on top of your mental and physical health?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm I'm not anti-tool, but I have a thing with like, I suppose in the somatic space and in nervous system regulation, it can be like, oh, if someone feels this way, give them this tool. If someone presents this way, let's do this with them, which is to me very black and white in a world that like no nervous system is the same. So something I've practiced over the last nearly 2 years is embodiment practices, but like I genuinely sit and ask myself. So in the morning I'll wake up and I'll be like, how do you actually feel? And like that, I'll sit with my body. If there's anything that's been unprocessed, which happens all the time, like we're human, but I will sit with it. So I give so much more space. I think I move slower overall. I would have been like, go, 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 get it done. I would have perceived myself as being highly ambitious in the past, but actually I think I'm just curious. And the more space I have, the more curious I can be. So rather than like needing to know the answer now, it's like, how can I get there really intuitively? So in the mornings, if like something comes up or something sparks my mind, and often if it comes in, because I try to stay off the phone for the first 2 hours in the morning. So I will sit in the space and just see like, what do I need? And some mornings that's like somatic dance. Other mornings it's yoga. Other mornings I'm just shaking, I'm sounding. It's honestly so different. There's no routine. And if anything, I've moved really far away from discipline and much more towards devotion. Because something that I would have been very strict with was like my discipline around exercise. And again, it's probably the physio in me coming through that was like, you need to be weight training at least 3 times a week, like for your bone health, for your bone density. And I totally understand it. And then I would have all these other shoulds in my life. And I think as I've moved from that, I still do things that I know are good for me, but because I love myself enough to do it, not because I have to, and not because somebody else tells me I should. So yeah, the routine looks very different, but I do kind of allot those 2 hours in the morning to slowness. And if I have to get up extra early to make sure that that happens, I'll do it. But yeah.
And is there like is it really like freestyle? Like do you sit down, do you have a set of questions that you know you're going to ask yourself, or you just kind of sit and see what comes up for you?
I sit and see so I'll meditate in silence first and I'll see what comes up in that. And then if I'm not sure, the question I will always ask myself is, what do you need and how can you give it to yourself? So that could be anything at all. And like somatics would say, there's nothing that's right or wrong. It's just exploration.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah, it's like going back to being a child. I often think like, what would I have done? Like those mornings, you know, where babies wake up and they're just lying in the cot playing, and they'll like play with their feet or they'll play with their toys, the sounds, everything coming in. I'm like, that was your natural state. So I think we sometimes just need that space.
Back to the childlike state.
Childlike, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you have any controversial opinions in the mental and physical health space?
Ooh. Yeah, well, I do. I actually have these conflicts in my head all of the time, because the part of me that really sides with science is constantly contradicting the part of me that wants to just lean into the spiritual, sacred, kind of woo-woo side of the house. So I feel like my controversial opinions are actually inside myself as well. Something that I find so funny is like, as a physio, I would say to you, like all of the gadgets, all of like the getting cracked or aligned or into place, I would have gone like bullshit. Bullshit doesn't happen. Like, I'm not going to call out any one profession, but just we would have been very much so taught in college, like you can't realign the spine. You can't crack something back into place. No tool is going to do, like there's no amount of force that you can put through a certain muscle that's greater than like the force of the body running or something. So there was a lot of like what I thought were kind of woo-woo modalities that my mind has been so changed by exposure and just trying it. But then the other side of me still falls back on science. So yeah, I can so see both sides. Like something I think is in physio, we would have said there's no such thing as poor posture. So like very clearly said to people, you know, you'll go to someone and they might give you like a posture corrector. You're paying for a posture corrector. You believe your posture should be a certain way. And physios would say, no, posture's fluid. So once you can move in and out of every posture, you're all good. And then I've just gone into the whole somatics of this that says actually posture is reflecting your mental health so clearly. And I can see that because when I read someone in a breathwork or in a somatic session, I'm looking at your shoulders being closed in. You're protecting your heart space. I'm looking at your chin dropping towards your chest. You're not making eye contact. I'm looking at your hip flexors like really, really tight and contracted. I mean, that's your fight or flight muscle that is continually contracting to get you ready to get out of there. So no wonder you are presenting with a certain posture, but it would conflict science. So yeah, I'm back and forth, and I've done my yin through Chinese medicine. I have such respect for Chinese medicine, but the physio world would say nothing.
Bullshit.
And then same thing, fascia. Like in college, we would have learned nothing. Like we cut open cadavers, looked at cadavers, learned the human body inside out, upside down. And the one thing they told us to dismiss was fascia. And I can safely say the more I study fascia, the more my mind is absolutely blown that it is holding the whole story of your life. It is like an interconnected crystalline web of magic. And if you start to actually tap into fascia, you tap into your body's story. So yeah, I'm constantly at odds with myself.
I'm laughing because I'm so similar. I came into the fitness industry, I think 15 years ago, not knowing a whole lot about science, very open-minded, and like, you know, recommending stupid stuff like bulletproof coffee, and I was sort of just had no idea, right? And the more I learned, the more I was like, I became too far into the evidence-based realm. Like if there wasn't a meta-analysis on it, I didn't want to be recommending it to my clients.
Exactly.
And then like I've now come full circle again, going, well, I see these things that apparently don't work according to the science working. So who am I to say that it's bullshit? And for example, I'll say like sauna and ice baths, right? Like the jury is still kind of out in the evidence-based community saying, are they actually that good for you? But if you go and you do it and you feel amazing afterwards, I don't need a scientific study to say that this works, right?
Absolutely.
So I personally get a lot of benefit out of it. And you know, the guys like Huberman are saying this is the optimal time, this is the optimal temperature. Like I just think people are missing the forest through the trees and always trying to optimize. Is there science? Is there evidence-based behind it? If you do something and it feels great, then I just think, why not do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not machines.
Yeah. And placebo is a hell of a thing as well. So if it's placebo effect, just take what you can get, right?
Yeah.
Tell me the last time you surprised yourself.
I would say building a method for me was way off the cards. And I think I would have really struggled to conceptualize how I was going to bring everything together. It's one thing to just do something, to like have courses or knowledge in your brain and to just do it naturally. And then it's a whole other thing to teach it. So I would say I surprised myself. We just finished the first weekend of the level 2 where they have like 2 in-person immersions. We've finished the first weekend and I'm always a little bit shocked. Like something in me goes, oh my God, this worked. Like when I see the thing that in my mind, in my body makes sense, and then I teach it or I facilitate it, and I can see people dropping into really deep processes, I'm like, this is wild. Because we've started to move away from the breath, but still bring people into the same kind of liminal space or brainwave space. So it's been wild to watch.
Yeah.
Because what my science brain would have said, that's the breath. Because, I mean, you're doing it with breath work. Your physiology actually changes. There's no two ways about that. Now I'm just putting you on a mat and rocking you back and forth. And then suddenly you end up back in the womb and you're like, how did I get here? It's crazy. The body is amazing. And I think, yeah, surprising myself is just like, there's so many layers. There's limitless place I can go to explore my body and understand it better and then embody that part and it'll bring up all its own stuff with it. So yeah.
Well,
really
what about
cool.
feeling like creating a method and then seeing it firsthand that this shit actually works, right?
Yeah, it's wild. Like, and I am the biggest cynic. So often it's until I experience it myself that I won't be able to like stand by it. But like that now I'm more so, okay, I don't necessarily need to be rigid around science. I do love to have the backing of science, but science is so far behind where people experientially are. So yeah, I surprise myself when I'm able to tap in and then facilitate that.
Yeah.
And then there's just so many little surprises.
Yeah,
along
and
the
that's
way.
an amazing feeling for you, and not just for you as a person to see how great it is that what you're doing is actually helping people, but like from a business perspective, like because you're now selling something that you wholeheartedly knows that 100% works.
Yeah. I back it. Like,
Love that. Okay, so now tell me, what do you like doing outside of the sort of mental and
I
physical
love
space?
dancing, which is something that I've tried to bring back in. I danced when I was younger, and there's obviously other stuff that comes with that when you're younger. You're like either competing or you're in shows and all of those things. And I think I was a bit allergic to it after a while.
Well, here it can get pretty like crazy for women and young women, like eating disorders.
I definitely
and
wasn't
pressure and
like the
so.
best, but I was good enough to be there and thereabouts where I let the pressure definitely seep inside a little bit. So I would say it affected my body image and just my overall worth in a lot of ways. So there was a lot of space between me and dancing for a while, but coming out here, the dance space is so much more open. So just like in the embodiment spaces, and some of the girls have been going to heels, which is so much fun to do heels dance classes. No, not pole. It's just where like it's kind of sexy dancing, which I would have been like, no way, not me.
Okay.
At home I would play football, so Gaelic football, and I love football. It's obviously quite like masculine and like kind of rough in some places, and I love that side of it. I love being physical and fit. And this is just so different. So yeah, I went home, I played a bit of football when I was at home for the 4 months over the summer, came back here and put on a pair of heels, and I was like, this is a big contrast.
Yeah, I'm thinking the juxtaposition between Gaelic football and dancing. Yeah. Okay, that's funny. So tell me, this is one of the funny ones. If you could have a drink with anyone, dead or alive, I want to know who it is, and I want to know what you're drinking.
I think I obviously have a meaningful answer. That would be, I would love to sit with my friend who passed and just tell him about everything that we've all done since. A lot of our friend group are out here or exploring the world, and every time we have like a big moment within that whole friendship group, like I see someone get married or someone have a kid or someone move away, I often think I'd love to fill him in and update him. And I know. Oh God, I feel like he's right there with us.
Probably watching though, you know.
I just think his family and everything would be so proud of him. But the drink that you would have to have for Kieran would be a buckfast. A buckfast. Do you have buckfast here?
A what?
I don't even know. It's some form of wine.
No, I don't think I've even heard of that.
Like toxic. What it does to your body is not good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that it sounds lethal.
So
I've
we
never
book
even
fast.
heard of
And
it.
then
So
the history nerd in me, and this is going to be so Irish, but like I was obsessed with Michael Collins. I don't know if you know anything about Irish history, but okay, so Michael Collins is like, he was one of the leaders of the revolution in Ireland, and I was just a little history nerd growing up. I would say my dad handed me, there was a newspaper that used to release history books every Sunday, and I think I read the Michael Collins biography when I was like 11, 12. So I've often thought about, I would have a Guinness with Michael Collins. And
I was going to say, it has to be a
ask
Guinness.
him like what was happening, what was the thought process. Such a clever man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. I recently also learned that the Guinness, because like I've had Guinness and it didn't do much for me, but I hear that it's different recipes on different continents,
have a Guinness
right?
in Ireland.
So I'm yet to have one in Europe, I think. So
I mean, Guinness in
it's on the
Dublin
bucket
Grave
list.
Diggers, I would say is my favorite Guinness in Dublin. Yeah.
Dublin,
100%.
I'll be coming to you for some travel tips when I go there. Okay. So tell me, Kiba, how do you deal with setbacks when something difficult happens in your life? What's your mindset and how do you get through that?
I'm always between, is this resistance telling me to turn away from it, or is it resistance that's asking me to sit in discomfort? Yeah.
Sometimes that can be hard, right? Like sometimes the intuition can be, especially if there's trauma involved, you don't know if it's
100%
warranted.
I think something I've sat with
tell me
recently is desire. So we are all innately wired to desire things. And part of me doesn't want to keep chasing and miss out on the fact that I could be experiencing. Like, you're creating this life, you're pushing so hard that you forget, oh my God, the whole point of this was to be in it and to enjoy it. Yeah, exactly. So I've started to look at desire differently and think, is this like a head desire? Like, is it a cognitive desire that I have? Or is it a soul desire that I have? And often the setbacks that I'm experiencing are in the one in my head. So if I'm like asking for something or chasing something that actually, was I doing it because I thought I should, or because I compared myself to someone else, because I thought I was behind, because I saw someone else do it and it looked like a good idea, and then I face a setback, they're often the ones where I just reevaluate. So I pull back and say, what was my why behind this in the first place? And then the soul desire, I find there is resistance. Like there'll be points. Like last year at home, I really wanted to bring people together. So Ireland is, I wouldn't say way behind Australia because I don't like saying that, but in the wellness and kind of mental health space, there's a lot of people doing fantastic work. But I feel collectively there's a lot of like, who does she think she is? Do you know, there's a lot of like, oh, you be grand. Do you know, we don't talk about that. People are very resistant to talking, to like being seen doing things for themselves.
And sort of standing out a little bit. Well, it's funny because have you heard of tall poppy
It's the
syndrome?
same as Australia. Yeah, and I
Ireland,
have
that
seen
sounds like it might have
Australians
that
talk
worse than
about,
Australia.
people down a few pegs. Same in Ireland. It's just, I think, a wound, like a collective intergenerational wound of silencing. There's a lot of stuff that happened through a lot of generations, and the more work I do at home, the more I can, like, it's potent. I can feel it on people's bodies. They don't even sometimes know what they're processing, but looking at them, watching them moving energy in their body, it's wild. Like, they're moving years of shit. So going home, there was so much resistance. I was like, there's going to be setbacks here, I know, but I did not anticipate the level of setback. To like hear something would sell straight away, I wouldn't have to even think about it. I might put something up once. At home, the very first retreat I tried to sell, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to bring my family on this because no one's going to come. And honestly, what I would say to people is, if you believe in it and you know it works, you have to trust yourself enough to just do it, even if it doesn't fully work the first time. I think a lot of the facilitators get put out by, oh, if it doesn't happen straight away, fuck it, like it's not going to happen at all. And yeah, something I've definitely learned is like my first few Pilates classes, I taught to my best friend and probably my mum, and you just build, like you keep showing up. And then I think if it's a soul desire, there'll be energy in the tank to keep showing up because something more is pulling you forwards. Well,
Yeah. Have you heard of John DeMartini? He's like a, what would you call him? He's kind of like a personal development guy. His whole thing is like, if you have a strong enough why, that like nothing can get in your way. Like no speed bumps. Like might start with one person in your Pilates class, and then you just keep showing up. One person, then it's two, then it's three, then it's four, then it's five. So if it's important enough to you, you will push through.
And it's really good for you. Like it's really good for you to understand what it is to build. I think like if I went from 0 to where we are now, not that I'm where I want to be, but if I did, I wouldn't appreciate any of it. Yeah.
And we all start at the bottom of the mountain, right? Like no one gets to just.
You're missing out on the whole resilience building the whole way up. Yeah. And
right?
I think even like making something your own as well is so interesting. The resistance I felt in the beginning, like I remember one of the Pilates is so physio related. It was very clinical. It made sense. So in the beginning, I was teaching Pilates as I was taught to teach it. And like maybe a year in, I started to bring in, you know, like kind of hypnotic meditations or like meet your spirit guide or something. And my mum was in one of the classes. She said, don't ever do that again. Like, don't ever do that meditation again. Yeah. And she was coming from a place of like, that's not what people signed up for. And you'll embarrass yourself.
Yeah,
and
I want to protect you, right? Yeah.
You'll see. Someday people are going to come to my classes for just that. Like, I'm going to get so good at this because I believe in it. And now I would say it's like, my secret sauce is the fact that I love that stuff. I connect deeply to it and I can weave it into something that, you know, you may perceive as Pilates, but I could probably make it something else. So,
yeah. Well, I love the determination, like the authenticity. Like people want to see the real you.
I don't even know what it's called. Kind of like, I don't know, like spiritual meditations, I'd say, or like,
Yeah, okay, just if that's you, then just do it and then you'll attract, you know, you'll be polarizing. Like some people, like your mum will be like, what the fuck was that? Exactly. And then other people will be drawn to you, right? As long as you're being your authentic self. Okay. So tell me, Kate, like, what is something that you couldn't live without?
I hate to say the stereotypical thing of my phone, but I actually think for the reason of we're so far away from home out here and a phone, I know,
a spiritual guide
but
like you
for the purpose of definitely like connecting, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how they did it. Like I actually don't know how they did it years ago, where you would leave to go to Australia and have no contact home. Like it's absolutely nuts. My granny was telling me when I was home, she moved to America just before she was going to get with my granddad. She's a great story about it. But she would write him letters, and that was the only communication they had for the whole year that she did in Baltimore. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, you went out there, you got off that plane, you didn't have a clue where you were going. So even getting here today, like all the little things. So practically the phone. Outside of that, I think music and just being able to move to music feels like such a gift. I actually, if you saw my Spotify playlists, they're all over the place. But I love techno. I think like just it brings me back to college, and now I love bringing it into breathworks and bringing it into pilates. But yeah, I also just love Irish music. So there's a few really big Irish bands coming through called Amble and Kingfisher, kind of like folk or like kind of country-ish. Yeah, Amble and Kingfisher, you'd like them.
I'll have to check them out. Okay. So tell me, what advice would you give to that young woman going through burnout, having a death very close to you?
God.
If you could talk to her today.
I think I would tell her that what she goes through right now, she'll understand the word alchemy a whole lot better in a few years' time. I think I'd tell her it's going to take time. So like there's no point in forcing or pushing or rushing, and to not be so hard on herself. I think I thought the way forward, or the way that I would get approval and love and validation, would be through perfection. And if it was perfect, it would be valued. And if I could go back and tell her anything, it's actually been my imperfection or my messiness that has been most valued. So I will never sit and lead something or facilitate something where I'm coming from a place of superiority. If anything, I'm telling you that I've struggled or am struggling with this, and it's something that I'm willing to hold. So yeah, I don't know. I tell her I'm really proud of her that she kept going despite nobody seeing the vision. And that, yeah, it just gets so much better than you could ever imagine. Like, it's not always going to be perfect, but yeah, it's pretty good on the other side.
I love that. And the ride never stops. Tell me more about alchemy.
It's your ability
alchemy.
to take something that's been really challenging and hard, or it has a charge in your body. And if energy can't be created or destroyed, we're just transforming it. So it's using that energy and moving it towards something that's maybe more purposeful or powerful in your life. Yeah, I see it all the time on retreats. Like I literally watch people come in with pain and then they leave and they're like, this is fuel to my fire. Like, this is how I'm going to show up in the world. And if you've experienced something that has deeply challenged you or made you question everything, like, there it is. That's the thing. I love that saying, Rumi, like, where there's a wound, there's a gift. 100%. Like,
I need to read more Rumi. People keep mentioning on this podcast.
Like,
I haven't really read a lot of this stuff. So, any particular books of his that you recommend? Or?
What's the name of the one to the heart? That's the last book I read from him. Beautiful. I can't remember if it's Story to the Heart or one of those. Yeah.
That's all right. That's cool. Tell me, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who is it from?
I would say it's probably that time in palliative care where the psychologist said to me, like, it's not yours today. That's probably the best piece of like advice that helped me life-wise. I also just think like the thing that comes up in my head all of the time when I'm stuck or when I feel frustrated is, if you're not changing it, you're choosing it. And I don't know, the trauma-informed side of me would say not everybody has choice. Like this whole thing of you're one decision away from changing your life. I don't know, some people aren't. Like some people aren't one decision and they need safety first. But then the parts of me that are just complaining or are making my own chaos or frustrating myself is like, you're choosing that in lots of ways. So yeah, if I'm not changing it, I'm choosing it, I think would just be my like on my mirror. Yeah.
Okay. I really love that. So tell me, are there any sort of books, podcasts, anything you can recommend the listeners consume if they want to understand?
Yeah, I really love something I've been listening to recently is Know Thyself by Andre Dunquin, I think is his name. It's just like from a spiritual side of the house. Yeah, it's a podcast. Yeah.
That's a podcast.
And then books.
It's a podcast.
I have gone back to maybe moving away a little bit from like the self-help books. I think in the beginning of the journey, they're really helpful for like giving you foundations. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's the same thing, just repackaged a million times over, right? So I listen to audiobooks to see if it's worth buying the book. I'll kind of like go like, is there anything new here? And then I'll just be like, no, because I've got the Audible, you get a free book a month. I'll sort of skip through and look, like I can't tell you the last book I bought. I haven't read a lot of books recently, but like I listen to a lot. But
and
yeah, like I said, it's just
if
the same
it's
thing
somebody
repackaged
else's
in more
experience,
ways,
like something that I think I took on in the beginning was, oh my God, that's so inspiring. And it can be inspiring, but I don't know, there's this whole thing in my mind of you want to inquire, like use your curiosity to inquire, but then go and experience it. So like if you tell me a story, or if you're listening today and there's a story that resonates, it's still my experience. But when you go out then and act on that or explore it further, it becomes your own. So they're good catalysts, but I think like nobody can absolutely.
And it's good for people entering the
Nobody's
space,
gonna
of
write
course.
it the
Yeah.
way you would in your own words through your own experiences. Something from the trauma space that I actually found really life-changing, I would say, is My Grandmother's Hands. That's a fantastic book. And I think if you're interested in intergenerational trauma and how trauma may be affecting you, but also to be more aware of our privilege, I just found that book incredible. I listened, and then that was one book that I went and I bought after I listened, because I was like, there's a lot of meditations and exercises, somatic exercises in it that are brilliant for bringing you into your body. So yeah. Yeah, My Grandmother's Hands.
Okay.
It's
That's interesting. I haven't actually heard that one before.
very much so around white privilege, but I mean, it's intersectionality, so it crosses all those boundaries and borders as well. So yeah.
Okay. I love that. And now tell us a little bit about the Soul Searching podcast. So not too different in names than Into Deep and Soul Searching.
Yeah,
so also definitely tell me a little bit more about that.
I had an obsession with just the word soul for ages. Like obviously the breathwork training is called Onam, which is Soul 13 podcast. I just think I find myself, I'm a Scorpio moon, and I just love soul searching. So I wanted to know, like you, what makes people tick, or in their lives, is there something that happened that brought them to the place that they're in? So very similar thought process behind it. I am doing my best, but again, like that, when you're keeping loads of balls in the air, I have utmost admiration for you being able to do it and get them out there and stuff. Podcasting's hard.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I got lucky. I've got a friend who has like a video editing agency essentially, so he handles a lot of the back end stuff because it can be overwhelming.
That's
but I'm so glad.
Good way to do it. Podcasting's hard,
most of the hard work to them.
but people are so fascinating and so interesting. So I love that side of it. Like I've had some really interesting guests on who have just been through massive life experiences and then have alchemized them into something. So yeah, it's been really fun. I would love to explore more. I think like where my mind is going with things is as I facilitate and train more people in facilitation, like I want to do my best to provide spaces where you feel like, okay, I can be authentic, I can be raw and vulnerable and not feel like I'll be judged. So yeah, creating some of those conversations is probably like my next protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Putting them on the to-do list. Okay, Kev, I'm just mindful of the time. We're just wrapping things up here. So if people want to follow your journey, find out more about
so I
what
mostly
you offer and
post
what you do,
offerings
how can
over
they do
on
that?
Instagram. So that's the Mindful Physio. And then the breathwork trainings and the retreats are over on Onam_Collective. And then, I post stuff on TikTok, the podcast. I have a website, loads of bits. There's a few retreats coming up in the next year. And trainings and stuff like that. But it's all over on the socials.
Okay, love
Yeah,
that. And
I
are there
think
any
just
final messages you want to leave the
from
people with?
everything I've said today, the one thing that's coming through for me is trusting yourself is sometimes the hardest thing. Like we've said about intuition, we've said about those moments where is it resistance or is it not? And I don't know, like connecting to your body will build this trust muscle. And like I said with the morning practice, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Like there's so much information online. I think it's overwhelming when you start searching like somatics or nervous system regulation. So my closing message is probably like, what do you need? Not what do you think you need or what should you need? What do you need right now and how can you give it to yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard because we can, imprint other people's values on us. So really getting to know yourself and saying, what do I need, as opposed to what are the expectations that society, family, all that sort of stuff is pushing onto me. Well, that's beautiful stuff. Thank you so much. I had such a great time talking to you. I hope our guests also loved it, and it's inspiring watching what you do.
Oh,
and the
thank you
impact
so
that
much,
you're
and thank you for having me. It was such a
people that you're
pleasure.
working with. So thanks so much for listening this far, guys. If you got anything out of the show, share it with a friend, give us a rating. It really helps us impact more people, and we will see you next time. Peace.